gentlemen, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world, this is Coast to Coast. We got everybody here. But, man, I feel like we have to start this off with the comment section. Steelers fans ready to wear a paper bag on their head?
No. I mean, he's a Philly fan, isn't he?
Chad? No. He's a Steelers guy. He's a Steelers guy. So,
I mean, Dennis Gainwell is not a bad pickup. I mean,
no, I mean, you still have Warren.
Well, I think it's because they got rid of Harris for.
Well, they still have Warren, and there's still guys like Nick Chubb and some very good running backs on the market. It doesn't mean they're not going to get another one.
I mean, it probably kind of does, though.
They could draft one. They could draft Caleb Johnson from Iowa.
No, they definitely could draft one, but they're probably not going to go for another free agent signing. So Gainwell's probably going to be their guy. Yeah. Interesting, though. I mean, some of it mostly probably stems from they have receivers, they go grab a running back. They still have not pulled the trigger on a quarterback.
I keep hearing that there's going to be a ayahuasca friendly retreat with DK, and
I keep waiting for that news to pop across the screen.
He's inviting Mike Tomlin and the rest of the offense to go have some ayahuasca with him this weekend.
Perfect.
They're all going to get on the same page, literally.
That sounds like it might be the first losing season for Tomlin.
Well, I think that they're doing a great job over there. And listen, I mean, obviously they needed to change things up a lot.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sneaking in doesn't Mason Rudolph, man.
So is Jamie King. He's in the mix.
Exactly.
Jameis Winston's in the mix too. If you really want to go for it.
I mean, you're talking about two receivers that are gonna they're gonna be a problem if they're losing, and you're saying Mason Rudolph and Winston are in the running. Like, man, you're about to have a toxic environment there.
I think it's all going to be fun.
Yeah, that Nick Chubb to the Steelers has been a thing over the last couple of days.
Yeah, well, and that would have made a ton of sense had they not signed Gainwell. Like, I don't know why you would sign them both.
No, you wouldn't sign both.
Exactly.
So, I mean, ultimately, but they don't like speed backs there in Pittsburgh. True. They are bruiser backs. Ken Gainwell is kind of that ilk. So,
well, I think some of it is they just want to know who their personnel is going to be. Mm-hmm. So they're just like, you know what, we can get him. Let's get him.
Hey, if they want a bruising back, Cam Scattaboo's your bruising back.
And I guess, I mean, how much did they sign him for?
Couldn't have been that much.
Yeah, I didn't see.
Doesn't say.
I didn't see what the valuation was, but.
And there is
Uncle Rico. Let's go.
Hold on. It's that's did he play for Polk High?
Exactly. Tank for the draft. Oops.
Here we go. We got DeAndre Hopkins with the Ravens.
Yep, that was not a surprise.
Yeah, like I don't mind that, right? It a better signing than OBJ was.
Mm-hmm.
So, he can still get open in space. So I'm not too mad at that. Plus, adding a receiver makes all the sense in the world, being as they don't like to consistently use their huge running back.
I am, I'm looking at these prices, and I think they're high. These numbers are high
Yeah.
across the board. I'm not a big fan of this. Like, it's like I understand now why Howie Roseman has been doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's locking in the people he wants to lock in,
Yep.
and he's letting the other ones walk.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Daniel Jones is worth 14 million. I think you probably could have got him for 10. Just my opinion.
Sure.
Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen's a good D lineman. With your Vikings up over there. $60 million.
1 year, 3.5 million for Gainwell.
Oh, that's cheap.
That's not bad.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's
more than he would have made with Philly.
And then Warren, their starting back, is making 5.3 million this year, so they're essentially $9 million between the two backs, essentially.
That's not bad.
So if they really wanted to get Nick Chubb, they still could, and go with a 3 running back set, and they could use Gainwell more as that pass catching running back because Gainwell's a good pass catching running back, and then you have your Lightning and Thunder technically with Warren and Chubb. Then,
Nah, I think you probably move on to other positions of need.
It's interesting. The only guys with any rings over on that Steelers team are ex-Eagles.
That's right.
But I keep looking at
Jonathan Allen. I think Minnesota overpaid, like you were saying. But when you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie, or not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback on a rookie deal for 4 more years, you can overpay a little bit because it's not going to catch up to you right away.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Like 22 million, and then eat 16 on a 3-year deal? Like,
he'll be the full 3. Because you look at the rest of that defense. They signed Jonathan Grenard last year to a 5-year deal, so he's got 4 years left. They signed Blake Cashman last year to a 4-year deal. He's got 3 years left. They signed Van Ginkel to that 2-year deal last year. They're in the process of trying to extend him beyond this season because he's in the final year of his deal. You just re-signed Byron Murphy to 3 years. So basically your core of your defense is there for the next 3 years. So even if like McCarthy is not your answer long-term, whatever you have right now, you're going to roll with the next 3 years because everybody on your defense is signed for the next 3 years minus 1 or 2 guys who's got 4 years left.
All right, I guess.
It'll be about 9 million is what I heard for Hargrove.
Okay.
It'll be like a 1 year, $9 million deal that can be up to 14 million based on incentives. So
that makes sense. I would incentive laden that, and I bet you he makes them.
Based on how many percent of the snaps he plays, how many sacks he gets, whatever. Like it'll be an incentive based deal where he can get up to 14 million, but it looks like it's going to be between 8 and 9 million guaranteed before the incentives.
Right. Okay. And he'll probably get to about 12 million.
Which is going to be interesting because Minnesota's been running a 3-4 defensive front the last couple of years with Brian Flores. Mm-hmm. Well, if you bring Jonathan Hargrove in, or Javon Hargrove, he's a defensive tackle. Harrison Phillips, who they gave a 2-year extension to last year, is a defensive tackle. And then Jonathan Adams, or the guy from Washington that they got, is also a defensive tackle. So now are you going to go to a 4-3 front? Or are you going to just basically put 3 defensive tackles on the line at one time and be like, Hargrove, you blitz, and Harrison Phillips, you plug the middle?
Yeah, either that or you put whoever the fastest guy is in a hybrid role.
So I disagree with that. I think they probably go to a 4-3.
Put Allen on the outside.
If they're trying to stay with a 3-4.
But and then people are now starting to pay attention to the Eagles defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they like the idea of the rotating linemen. They are realizing that you can go with a little bit of age by not having them play 100% of the snaps. That when you're playing these guys in the neighborhood of 60 to 75% of the snaps, they are worn down by the end of a game. Mm-hmm. If you are playing them at 40 to 50% of the snaps, that they are staying fresher longer.
Sure.
And I'm beginning to believe that that's what they are seeing. That you're seeing a flux to a different mindset when it comes to these players. That's why I think it's expensive, because I think that you can get some players less expensive and
Yeah.
rotate them through
Sure.
and get more production. The problem is that you do a lot of Howie Roseman's show me contracts.
Mhm.
And we put you into the system, you show well, and then you get paid somewhere else.
Yep.
Yep.
Like the Joseph's comment right there, where he wouldn't do 9 million on Hargrave. I mean, yes, he only played 3 games last year, and he ended
No,
up.
no, no. He's saying he wouldn't know what to do with 9 million.
Oh, I mean, the guy had 11 sacks, 7 sacks, and 7.5 sacks 3 straight years before he got hurt last year.
No,
so,
no,
I
no.
mean,
He's saying if he had 9 million,
I don't ever do it.
if you were paying him 9 million, he wouldn't know what to do with it.
Oh,
Troy, since you're in here this morning, who is your quarterback? Like, who do you want as your quarterback? Figure they have.
I almost think that, I mean, they got what they say 13. They have 13
They
selections.
have 13 picks.
they're gonna
Yeah,
trade
but
back.
I mean, but that's going to be like, what are they? A lot of 5th-round picks,
Yeah,
a lot
it'll
of
be 5th and 6th.
compensatories.
That's what ours are too. But I think we are sitting at 12 or 13 picks now as well. And it basically added a couple. I think it added a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th, something like that.
I mean, we got 2/3.
Yeah,
3 third-round picks, which I see that being packaged up and traded away. Like they're going to trade away some of those picks. I mean, first off, like I said, I don't think that they even have their first-round selection. I think that the Eagles are going to trade away pick number 32 or trade up to get somebody specific using one of those third-round picks. But I don't foresee them, picking with 32. I just don't see it. It's not something that they do. This is something that the Patriots used to do all the time. Patriots would trade away. They didn't have a first-round pick in years because they would trade away that 32nd pick, and you'd get the extra compensation for it. You could almost trade it. It's worth more having the 33rd pick.
yes.
To some teams, because some teams want that extra year because it's the year that on the contract that makes the difference there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason to have it is that 5th-year option. Yeah, I mean, when you look at Seattle, they were very similar. They were always going to be picking somewhere in the mid to late 20s, and most of the time they trade back. Like they didn't do a lot of first-round picks. They would gather up some extra compensation for it, give that pick away. I don't think they do that this year, but it's something they did a lot as well.
Yes, Scott. As I'm looking at the one a couple down from that. Yes, Scott. That teams got tired of doing it for Belichick. That was the problem. That he just it would almost be for nothing. That he would give it away. Like he'd be giving away like that pick, and like, all right, you give me that pick, and I'll give you like a like a 2nd rounder and a 7th rounder or whatever. He just didn't want to do those picks because it wasn't worth it for him.
Yep.
That's when he had the dog picking.
You want Dart? Okay. Well, I mean, Dart's fine. You need somebody to throw this year, though.
I think Kyle McCord's a better option.
Fields. I guess Fields got 20 million.
Yeah, 20 million
Yep.
for 2 years.
Yeah, so that puts him in the 3 as a 3, a compensatory 3. That's the highest you can get as a compensatory 3, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes.
Can't get a 2nd-round pick.
No, I think a 3rd is as high as you can get.
Yeah.
Did the Vikings get a 3rd-round pick for Darnold?
Yeah, for Cousins they did.
How about for Darnold?
I think they get one for him too as well. I think they got one. They got one this year for Cousins, and I think they get one next year for Darnold. So they got the 3rd round for this year for Cousins, and then next year they'll get a third for Darnold. So they added two compensatory picks for the next 2 years. So that gives them now, I think, 5 draft picks this year because they didn't have many picks this year. They only had 4 picks in this year's draft because they traded away their picks last year to move up to get McCarthy, and then they traded more away to move up and get Dallas Turner. So they took a lot of picks away from this year's draft. So now they added at least a pick that they're definitely going to hold on to because it gives them that 3rd round pick.
And I guess that you guys are now stuck. You better hope that the Mick is worthwhile, huh?
I mean, for the next 4 years, we're stuck with him the next 4 years because he's on that rookie deal. Once we get past that rookie deal and a lot of these big contracts are off the books, then it becomes a question: is he your guy, or are you going to reset everything by going after a free agent quarterback or drafting again? But we still need to figure out what we're going to do as a backup quarterback right now.
In 4 years, the cap could be $300 million.
It'll be over $300 million in 4 years. It'll be over probably $300 million in 2 years, given how much it went up last year.
Well, yeah, but I think it'll be 3 years. It's going to take that 3rd year, and it's going to be the 18th game that does it.
Yep.
That you're not going to get over 300 million until you get that 18th game in, and that's coming. It's coming. I was talking to somebody yesterday about that. I heard a rumor, and I can't announce the rumor yet, but because Pittsburgh is playing in Ireland.
Yep, they are.
And I heard that another Pennsylvania team could be playing next year.
Okay.
Not this upcoming year, the following year. Just heard.
Nice.
Heard. Maybe. Possibly.
Jamie, there's no way Tomlin wants to tank for a 12-loss season.
I think Kyle McCord is a better fit in Pittsburgh than Jackson Dart.
So everybody keeps talking about how this is a terrible quarterback draft. And I think that what that tells me is that you're going to be able to get a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th or even 5th round who
Absolutely.
could possibly be somebody worthwhile having.
See, I don't.
They're all projects, so it's not like they're
Yeah.
bad.
I was gonna say that I don't think it's a terrible draft, but I just don't think it's like the quarterback draft that we had last year, where you had 4 or 5 first round, 6 with Bo Nix, but you had 4 or 5 first round quarterbacks that everybody knew was going to go in the first round. And then you had like that Bo Nix and Michael Penix, where Penix I think was drafted higher than anyone thought he was going to be drafted. Same thing with Bo Nix. But like this year's class, I'm not going to say it's a bad quarterback draft. I just don't think they have the same level of talent that last yeast quarterback.
Well, the biggest thing is they're just not ready to rock. When you look at the first 2 guys in Ward and Sanders, last year they wouldn't be a first round pick.
No.
They'd be a second round pick.
Yep.
So, I mean, basically what they mean by this is a bad class is they're just not NFL ready quarterbacks. Like all of these guys need to sit. Even the first 2 guys realistically would be better off to sit, but they won't get that option obviously.
No.
But at the end of the day, Pags, you're right. Like you're going to get one of these guys in the 3rd or 4th round. And as long as you have the ability to not force them out there, which is generally the case if it's a 3rd or 4th round pick anyway, then you could get a guy. They just all need development.
Yeah.
Is the biggest part.
I agree with that. Troy, I don't see that. I mean, are you going to give away? You're going to have to give away a lot to get that up that high. I mean, where are you guys drafting now? 14?
No, higher than that because they made the playoffs, so they'd be around that 17, 18.
I think he means for next year, though. Not for this draft, but for.
No. I'm talking about. He's talked to Bob Pompanini.
Oh, missed that one.
Yeah, I don't see him. I don't see him getting past 6.
I don't even see him getting past 4.
Yeah.
Someone will swing at him at 4. Like if the Titans don't take him at number 1, and they end up taking Travis Hunter, Cleveland will take Shedeur too. Like I don't see Sanders falling past 4.
I absolutely see that becoming an Elway version. Like he just been, nope, I ain't going to Cleveland.
Yep. You mean Eli?
Yeah. Well, it started with Elway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the other comment that who said that? Jamie, all quarterbacks should be projects unless they're Joe Burrow. That I don't believe because Peyton Manning was not a project.
Yeah,
Peyton
he
Manning
was.
was gonna
Yes,
be.
he was.
Well, you
He
knew he
was
was gonna.
absolutely a project. He's terrible in his first 2
Yeah,
seasons.
Well, he was terrible in his first 2 seasons, but you knew he was gonna be like a starter from day one. Like there's some
no,
quarterbacks.
but him being terrible was his development,
Yeah.
right?
Joe
The-
Burrow was
the
hurt
guys
his first
sit
year.
and get their development without being on the field.
Yeah, like Joe
He
Burrow
wasn't
was hurt
ready
his
to go
first
week
year.
one.
Like Joe Burrow was hurt his first year, so you could technically say he was a project too because he didn't play much his rookie year.
But first off, they got him killed. I remember
did
I
get him
saw
killed.
his first game. His
Yeah.
very first game was against the Eagles, and he led them to a tie. You know, which was amazing. And he got his ass handed to him. 8 sacks in that game, and still tied us at 26.
Yeah,
Sure,
well,
no.
and the thing is, you can't say the guy's a project because he got hurt. Like he played well, and then he got hurt because the offensive line just let
But
guys.
I feel that he got better because he was able to watch the speed of the game
sure.
from the sidelines.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing you have to do. You have to understand the speed of this game. And
Yep.
that's the hardest thing to learn. You can only really learn it by watching. You cannot be in the middle of it and
And
playing.
that's the hardest thing to do when you're an NFL head coach too, especially with like drafting Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, all these guys. Like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels started day one, but Drake May started I think like week 6 or 7 or whatever. Like so many of these coaches now are, I'm not going to say they're forced to start a rookie quarterback right away, but you can tell like there is pressure on them to get that rookie quarterback in the starting lineup maybe sooner than they want to. And I think a lot of these head coaches want that rookie to sit, like you said, to learn the speed of the game, to learn a lot of the things they can't learn in college. But I think it's the people that are higher up than the head coaches like, no, we took this guy in the first round. Like, you need to put him out there even if the guy's not ready.
Well, a lot of times when you take him in the first round, it's also because you don't have a guy.
Yeah.
So the other part of that is that you still need to have him on the bench and learning the speed of the game for the first 10 games, or the first even 7 games. Think of all the quarterbacks that come in after like the first, I'll say third of the season. I going back to Donovan McNabb, who could have been out there from week 1, but instead was forced to watch the game from the sidelines, and then ultimately was a better quarterback because of that. Let's go back to just a couple of years ago. Brock Purdy, who probably never should have been on the NFL field, wound up having to watch the speed of the game and then has been able to operate as a starting quarterback because of it. I feel that
it helped that he started 4 years in college also. So he had a lot of reps. Like a lot of these guys are getting drafted with maybe a full season. Like that's a trend that is definitely significantly different than it used to be. Because it used to be guys were in college for 4 years and had tons of starts. And now you're seeing guys that have a handful of starts and come out and they're just like, get out there. And then they're like, how come they're bad? It's like, well, not only do they need to learn the speed of the game, but they didn't play that much in college either.
Or you have
that's going to be the next Manning.
Or you have a situation like Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett banked on having one good year in college. Like Kenny Pickett was not a great quarterback. He had his one great year in Pittsburgh where he got Pittsburgh into the ACC championship game, ends up being a first-round pick.
Mitch Trubisky killed me on that.
Mitch Trubisky had an incredible 1 year at North Carolina. Like one of the best years that a North Carolina quarterback has ever had until Drake May beat him out. And because of what he did at North Carolina that 1 year, people were putting so much stock in his upside that the Bears took him at number 2, and he ended up having basically a non-existent career as a starter.
No, I mean, you're looking at a lot of guys coming out of college that had a year of starting.
Well, and so I look at that. So he mentions Trey Lance here, and I look at that. That's the Ryan Leaf effect. So this is the bringing the AAA player up too quickly in baseball mentality. where you start to lose your confidence and then you can never get it back. And that's what happened with Ryan Leaf. That's really what happened with Trey Lance.
And
Trey
Jamarcus
Lance
Russell.
hasn't been able to throw the ball since then because he's got the mentality and the hitch in his brain, that you can't just get over.
Jamarcus Russell, the same thing.
There's some of that, but there's also the fact that Trey Lance gets hurt like 4
Yeah.
seconds into the first game that he's playing. I mean, he has very few starts in the league.
I think he's played in 8 games. He's made 6 starts. He's 5-1 as a starter when he starts. So I mean, the guy's won when he started. But that's the thing: if you're not on the field, you do an organization all good.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the biggest thing is he gets to the Niners, and the first year he's hurt week 1, the second year he gets hurt, or second year I think he's hurt game 2.
Third year he plays the first 4 games, and he gets hurt midway through the fourth quarter of that 4th game, and then that was it.
Yeah, and then it was a wrap. And then I think he has he touched the field once in Dallas.
Yeah, once, and it was basically for 2 series, and he threw an interception. They're like, all right, Cooper Rush are going back in.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like for him, I think it's a little bit different just because he could never stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, Ryan was shoved out.
The same situation though. Like he had his one good year at North Dakota State, where he had 1 turnover the entire year, and I think it was a fumble. It wasn't even an interception.
Sure.
Comes back the next year, plays the very first game the next year, then opts out the rest of the season, and then ends up being the number 2 pick. So he's the same situation. He has this one good year. People took stock in that and said, we like him.
No, and the Ryan Leaf situation, I mean, that was 100%. He needed to sit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was not mentally equipped to carry that team and just get beat up.
And then like that, what was it? The media thing. He did that in one interview where he just lost it.
Yep.
So I have a feeling that could be Shedeur.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think Shedor's mouth will get him in trouble.
But I also think I mean, the next Manning that comes out, he hasn't really played anything.
This will be his first year starting.
Yeah.
Right, and he's going to go right in the draft afterwards.
I don't know if he will because of what he's making for NIL. He is making a boatload for NIL right now. Where I mean, yes, if he has a chance,
a lot to not play.
Yeah, if he has a chance to be like a first round pick, it'd be hard to go back to school. But when he's making $10 million a year in NIL money, he's going to be making more staying at Texas than going to the draft. Like it would be foolish for him to go to the draft after 1 year as a starter.
I mean, I think it would be beneficial for him to play 2 years anyway.
Yeah, it would be, but just the money alone that he'd be leaving on the table to go to the NFL, he'd be making more just to stay at Texas. Because chances are, if he goes and has a good year next year at Texas and then wants to come back for that senior season, he could probably pick up additional NIL money from somebody else and then start making even more money.
I mean, so the thing about that, though, is, that NIL money is put in by sponsors, donors, whatever, right? Yeah. So there's nothing that would keep those NIL people from just turning around and being an endorsement contract with him. It'd be like, hey, you know what? You're not going to be part of our NIL package because you're going to the NFL. So why don't we just go ahead and have you do commercials for us? And if we've seen anything from the Mannings, there's not a commercial they've ever turned down.
Right. So yeah, last year Archie Manning signed an NIL deal with Red Bull and made $6.6 million just off of Red Bull.
Sure. But what my point is he could go to the NFL. Do you honestly think that Red Bull's going to be like, we're just not going to?
No, exactly.
They're going to be like, hey, you know what? We'll give you the $6 million anyway, and you just do commercials for us.
And Quinn Ewers had 3 separate NIL deals totaling $4.5 million. So Quinn Ewers had 3 separate NIL deals that didn't even equal what Archie was getting from one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, Manning has the name recognition, right? And what's the N stand for in NIL? Oh, it's the name. Yep. That's what they're paying for. So, but yeah, I don't know. Some of those things I don't think really keeps these kids in school. Like if he can, if you're going to be a higher draft pick, you go ahead and go because those same companies are going to want to sponsor you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Carson Beck's making $4.8 million in NIL money.
Yeah, I'm curious where Ewers is going to end up in this draft. Like, he is probably the biggest question mark of all of the quarterbacks on where it is he lands, because when you look at what he was able to do when he was healthy, you would think that he's going to be a early day 2 guy. But the fact that he gets hurt all the time makes you think he could be every bit of a 4th rounder.
I think he'll be a 4th, I think he'll be a 4th rounder, maybe even a 5th.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, had he stayed healthy, he's probably a 2nd rounder. But because he has never been able to stay healthy, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, he's probably a 4th. It's probably like mid to late 4th round. That's a huge swing of where you could potentially be snagged.
Right.
But then, you know, you never know. Maybe he has an awesome pro day and does the Anthony Richardson thing where he was going to be probably a 3rd round talent and ends up going, what do you go, 6th?
4th.
4th?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had one 80-yard bomb.
Yeah. I mean, Ewers doesn't have that kind of an arm, but...
No, but I mean, when you looked at Anthony Richardson's tape, there was nothing that says number 4 pick.
And what you just said about Anthony Richardson, too, is I think that could happen with Jalen Milroe. Because Jalen Milroe did not look great. Like, at his senior season, his combine wasn't great. If he goes and has a good pro day and freaking launches a ball like 75 yards, I think that might up his stock just because he has that athletic build you look for in a quarterback. He has the size, and if he can show that he has the intangibles, somebody might take a swing at him.
So Milroe will be a 3rd rounder. And why I say that is the last part of his season wasn't great, right? Then you go to the Senior Bowl where he was getting smoked all week in practice and in the game. Then you go to the Combine. He didn't throw particularly well. There's no defense there, right? Now, what Milroe probably should have done was all of the physical things, like ran the 40 and, you know, the long jump and vertical and all that, and not thrown. Like, he'd have been better off to do that, because the one thing that we've seen is he is way better off schedule.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he's like Caleb Williams in that aspect. Like, Caleb Williams in college was much better off schedule than he was just to run the standard play that was called in.
No, I mean, but that's the thing is, I don't think he can do anything in his pro day that's going to offset all of the bad film that he put out. Like, he would have been so much better off to have not played in the Senior Bowl, only gone to the Combine and done some of the physical running and interviews, and then done the pro day. Like, that probably would have helped his stock. But because he finished the year so bad, got absolutely just hammered in the Senior Bowl, really didn't have a great showing at the Combine, there's nothing he's going to do in that pro day that offsets all of that film. And yeah, they liked him at the Combine, but his pro day is really what shot him up the board.
Yeah,
as far as Richardson, like, that was it, and it was really the one throw. Like, you didn't even hear about any of the rest of his pro day. They're just like, oh man, he has such an arm. It's like, I don't think that equals 4th overall when you saw him missing targets all year. I mean,
and in college he wasn't great either.
Went 6 and 6, if I remember right.
And in college too, his college stats weren't that great. Like, he wasn't like a standout, like, oh my God, like, this is a can't miss prospect. Like, his size and athleticism, yeah. The size and athleticism he had made him like a can't miss type of prospect. But when you looked at his overall touchdowns, interceptions, like everything else that went with it, completion percentage, he only completed like 56% of his passes. Like, he wasn't that great.
And he only had the 1 year of starting.
Yeah.
So not only did he have not a lot of reps, he wasn't very good. They finished 6 and 6, I believe. I mean, like, there was so much that wasn't great about it, but they're like, oh, he threw the ball really far. Let's give it a go. And it's just like, I mean, okay. Because I had him pegged for a day 2 pickup.
I think he kind of followed the same path that Josh Allen took, because Josh Allen, he was more consistent than Anthony Richardson in college, especially his final year in college. But what made Josh Allen kind of shoot up higher than where a lot of people had him going was at his pro day, he threw a 70-yard bomb from his knees.
No, for sure.
And that's like, okay, this guy's got an arm. So he went from being like a middle, late second round pick to all of a sudden a top 10 pick. And obviously that worked out in the Bills' favor. But that was another situation where that one throw at pro day is like, okay, this guy has a little bit more than we thought he had. And somebody took a risk on him and worked out in the Bills' favor.
Yeah, well, and I mean, then there's this. You got, oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
You got Daniel Jones, fighting for the starting spot there. So, if that's the case, then they clearly are starting to feel like they don't have their guy.
And Daniel Jones is a Mitchell Trubisky 2.0, where he had his one good year at Duke. And somebody's like, oh, I like what I saw that year at Duke. I'm going to take a high pick for him. And obviously he was not worth the pick he was given.
No, but I mean, that's like Zach Wilson headed to Miami, right? Like he was way overdrafted.
You mean the Jets?
No, he just went to Miami. He just signed with Miami yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'm saying when the Jets drafted him number 2, it was the same situation where
yeah, super overdrafted. Yeah. But at least that one I kind of get, right? Because you're watching 2 overdrafted guys from the Jets having decent careers now. So Miami is like, hey, you know what? We'll take a flyer on him for free. Worst case, nothing works out. But we've seen Darnold, we've seen Geno. Both those guys are going to get over $100 million contracts. They've been playing well. Maybe we'll take a flyer on him. It'll work out. I mean, at least that one I can wrap my head around.
And at least that gives, I think, Miami, I'm not going to say a reliable backup because Zach Wilson hasn't played really any football in over a year because he didn't play last year at all with Denver. But at least now if Tua goes down, I think they have more trust in sticking with Wilson if they had to.
Well, it's also the first time he's had weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, you're talking about a Jets team that was terrible when he was on it.
Everybody, like Geno Smith when he was with the Jets had no weapons. Sam Darnold when he was with the Jets had no weapons. Like every quarterback that that the Jets won with in the first round, they never had any weapons to give these quarterbacks, and you wonder why the quarterbacks sucked.
No, exactly. So, and that's why I think Miami takes flyer, right? You're just like, hey, we've seen this trend where the Jets draft somebody a little too high, they go somewhere else and learn some stuff, and then they go to the third location, have success, right? You got Darnold going to the Panthers and then to the Vikings, success with the Vikings. You have Geno going to the Giants, and I think the Chargers, and then to Seattle, has success. So then you're thinking, okay, well, he got overdrafted, goes to Denver. This is the third spot. So
sits with a great head coach and Sean Payton, who knows a thing or two about helping quarterbacks. So it's not like he went to Denver with a horribly coached team either.
Exactly. So, I mean, it could work. And this is exactly right. Is it's not if, it's when. And that's why I think it wasn't a terrible move for him. Because, I mean, Tua's going to get hurt. Like, if we've watched anything from his NFL career, his college career, he's had one good season where he actually stayed healthy all year. And that's it. So
the year that Miami made the playoffs.
Bet the under on him making it through a season.
And the year that he stayed healthy was the year they made the playoffs.
Exactly. So even if Zach Wilson were to just be okay, right? If you can go 500 until Tua comes back, you might sneak in.
Yeah.
I remember when they were tanking for Tua.
Yeah. Like, I mean, which really didn't make any sense once they finally got him because Fitzpatrick was having a year. And they're like,
and that was the year that they wanted them all Miami Dolphins to lose. So
well, no, that was the year after they got Tua was the year that all the questions happened because the year after they got Tua, they drafted Tua when they drafted him. He was coming off of his hip surgery in the offseason, so he couldn't even start.
Yep.
Like when the season started, Miami got off to a 6-2 start with Ryan Fitzpatrick as quarterback. And that was when Flores was the coach.
That's what I'm saying. And then
the moment Tua was cleared, Stephen Ross was like, Tua is going in now, and Flores is like, we're 6-2 with Fitzpatrick. Why?
Yeah, and then they missed the playoffs because of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you didn't have to go with him.
Didn't make any sense. Like, let Tua sit, get to the playoffs. Like, I don't know. None of that made sense. That was the year I was just like, man, I feel bad for Fitzpatrick because, like, that was a good team.
He was having a good year. I think he had like 17 touchdowns and like 6 or 7 picks through those 8 games. It's like he's playing well.
No. He was killing it. Like, I felt bad for him. Like, he was absolutely going to take that team to the playoffs.
And I think that was the beginning of the end for the Stephen Ross, Brian Flores relationship too, because Flores is just like, why am I sitting this guy when we're 6-2? Like, I understand that we drafted Tua number 6 overall, but Fitzpatrick's on a 1-year deal. Ride the hot hand until it don't work. Like, we don't have to start Tua.
Exactly. But of course, none of that happened. Tua immediately gets hurt. That organization gets blown up. And of course, Tua might already be on the backside of it.
Yeah. I think that, obviously they're paying him a lot of money and he doesn't even want to wear the pillow on his head.
Yeah.
So
I still remember that interview last year when they were asking him why he didn't want to wear the pillow on his head. He's like, it's a personal choice. I'm like, so if the doctor comes and tells you that you have to wear it, are you going to say it's a personal choice that I don't want to play anymore?
Well, no, I think if it's dictated to you, then you have to do it, because if the doctor says, hey, you have to put this on or you can't play, then...
Does he play, though? If he really feels that against it, does he keep playing if the doctor says he has to wear it?
There's no way he just decides to give all that money away. Of course you're going to wear it to play. Right? Like, that would be completely idiotic. Be like, you know what? I just hate money. Let me walk away from my career. I don't see that being a thing. But they're never going to get to that point. They would be more likely to make you medically retire than be like, you have to wear this.
Which he's getting very close to having to because of the number of concussions he said.
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible. But
I'm sitting here and I'm reading X. I'm just trying to catch up on anything that's coming through the line. And of course, everybody's talking about that one Ravens who's retiring. He's like, yeah, retiring after 9 seasons. Something just came across my thing here. It says, and only because it says Vikings, am I even mentioning this? Vikings rookie J.J. McCarthy, a week after suffering a severe injury, asked veteran Harrison Phillips if they could watch film together every week so that he could understand how a defensive player is watching film.
Yep. I like that.
McCarthy, that's the main reason why I think Minnesota let Darnold go. It's because nobody knows how good McCarthy's going to be until they see him play. But from all accounts, he is a very smart football player. Like, he wants to watch film. He wants to be the first one to practice, the last one to leave. He doesn't just want to work with the quarterbacks in the offense. He wants to sit with Harrison Smith, who's been with Minnesota now for 13, 14 years. He wants to pick his brain, how a defensive player preps for a quarterback. He wants to pick everybody's brain on the defense to see like how they prep during the week to study for an offense and things like that. Like, he wants to know every single part of an organization and every single part of a game and how each position prepares for it.
Well, and I mean, you want that out of your quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why Minnesota's like has so much confidence in going with him forward, because over this entire season that he's missed, they've said he spent obviously more time with the quarterbacks because that's his position. Sure. He spent basically equal time with the offense and equal time with the defense learning film. Like, he's with everybody in that organization studying the game in different aspects just so he can try to pick everything up from when he does start next year.
Well, and that's one of the things you can do when you're sitting, right? Is you can do all of those things.
You know what that sounds to me? Not for nothing. That sounds to me like he's going to make a fantastic coordinator someday.
I think he will.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's what somebody said too, like with Kevin O'Connell being Minnesota's coach. They said that, who said it? I think it was either Rich Eisen or somebody that's on the Mike Greenberg show in the morning. But they basically said J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell have a lot of similarities. Not necessarily in the abilities, because McCarthy's got a lot more abilities than what Kevin O'Connell had when Kevin O'Connell was drafted. But they said the way that Kevin O'Connell prepared himself when he was with the Patriots is very similar to what McCarthy's doing now. Like, Kevin O'Connell was always the first quarterback to arrive at practice. He was always the last quarterback to leave. O'Connell was always sitting with the defense, when Tom Brady was running the first team offense, he was always sitting with the defense, talking with the defense on how they prepare for Brady. He was always sitting with like Gerard Mayo and Rodney Harrison and all these defenders on studying film. McCarthy's doing the same thing that O'Connell did when he was in the NFL and just trying to see film from a different angle.
Yeah. And Scott, I do think the Rams are going to be a very tough out. Like they've reloaded their team in a very smart way. So, especially if they can get some added depth during the draft, like they're going to be a tough team.
I know it's not
They
possible.
probably win our division.
I know it's not possible because I don't see a scenario where Cooper Kupp stays with the Rams now that they brought in Devontae Adams. But if there was a scenario where Cooper Kupp stayed, and then you had Cooper Kupp, Nakua, and Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford, that offense right there, I think, would give a lot of defenses problems.
I mean, that would be a crazy trio. The one thing that I'm hearing now is the Raiders, the Seahawks, and I think it was the Browns are reportedly interested in Kupp.
Bears also.
Bears, yeah. Yeah, I knew there was 4. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, the Bears, because they're not bringing back Keenan Allen.
So Kupp to Seattle would be interesting.
You need them to give help to Darnold.
Absolutely, they do. So that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
They won't trade for him though. They'd have to drop him.
Yeah, the Rams plan to cut him because of his cap hit.
Well, that's part of what's happening. It's
yeah,
like
that's why I said if the Rams could make it work and somehow talk to Kupp and be like, "Are you willing to restructure where we can keep you?" I kind of want to see Stafford with those 3 guys, honestly, just because you look at what happened last year.
I don't.
Well, yeah, you don't because you're in the division, but I'm just saying, you look at the Rams last year, they started off 1-4, 1-5 because both Nakua and Kupp were hurt. The moment that both of them came back in that lineup, the Rams went 9-2 the rest of the way.
No.
They started playing well with just those 2 together. Now you throw Devontae Adams in the mix.
No, it would be a crazy trio, especially because they all are really good at finding space.
Mm-hmm. And they have a young defense that got better as the year went on also.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to be as, like I said, I think that 3 guys like that start to, especially when you have Devontae Adams who wants the ball, he's going to cry about the fact that he didn't get the ball and blah, 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 blah. Like that's where you start to have those issues. I don't know. I don't see it.
There's also been, this is another speculation, but there's also been talks of Tyler Lockett going to KC.
I can see that.
That would be, well, especially because he went to college at K-State, right?
Yeah,
so,
I can see that. Especially after what the Chiefs just did this morning, I can see it.
Exactly. It's like, a possession guy that can get open, great hands. Like I could see that.
Kansas City did what they did this morning because they have something up their sleeve. So
what did they do?
They restructured Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes' contract and cleared up $49 million in cap space. That's a shit ton of money they just cleared up out of 2 guys.
Yep. Well, and Mahomes is gonna he's gonna do it forever. He's gonna follow the Brady program because he's getting so much money everywhere else.
He's getting $500 million a year.
Yeah, like he's doing fine. I don't think it's quite that high, but he's doing fine. So for him to
he's the part owner of the freaking Royals.
Exactly.
Well, he's
the
soccer team.
Sounders. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's well, and that's what I mean. Is he's making money so many other places that he can do the Brady.
Yeah, State Farm. He owns half of State Farm.
Right.
The funny thing is, if Kansas City did not pay him a single dime to play football, he'd probably still be one of the top 5 paid players in the NFL because of what he makes on endorsements.
Oh, no question.
The guy makes so much damn money. He doesn't need to get paid from the Chiefs anymore if they didn't want to pay him. Obviously, the Chiefs are going to, but that guy could take a pay cut and be like, "I'll play for the veterans minimum every single year because I'm making enough money in the endorsements anyways."
Yeah, well, I mean, it's why Brady was only a top paid guy once.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, because if he demanded it, they'd have gave it to him every time he signed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to win, You got to let other guys get paid.
Would you argue that he's overrated?
Who?
Patrick
Mahomes?
Mahomes.
No.
I mean, I guess it depends on the angle you're taking on it. I definitely think the hype around him is too much.
I wouldn't say he's overrated, obviously, because he was still successful even when he lost a guy like Tyreek Hill. Obviously, he didn't have the same success as he had with Tyreek Hill just because he never had that elite deep ball threat, but he still had Kelsey. He still had a lot of other weapons. But even the best quarterbacks, if you don't give them protection, they look mediocre at best. Both Super Bowls he lost, you did not give him protection.
Well, and some of the games during the seasons, right?
Yeah.
When he had linemen go down, whatever, they don't look the same.
Yeah, like no one's asking for like Kansas City's offensive line to be like a top 10 offensive line, but if you can just give him like normal protection, he's still going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league until he retires. So like I can't say that he's overrated just because even when he didn't have Tyreek Hill and even when he didn't have like the best receivers last year, he still had a solid season. He was making the most out of what was given to him last year. But then you don't protect him. He looks like he did in the Super Bowl where it's like, oh, this guy is not that good. Well, yeah, it's because he's on his ass the whole game.
So it's not that they don't have the mentality to do it. They don't have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Like why guys like Brady and Mahomes are able to do it is because of all the endorsement deals, all of the off the field things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Eagles, they're not that overbearing household name that everybody's trying to pay for. It's
not only that, I mean, let's face it. Tom was able to take pay cuts and do for nothing because his wife made all the money
than he did.
Yeah, well, but
if he got divorced, he was going to be able to get alimony from her.
True, but I mean, even if you were to go the other route, and you're talking about either Manning, right? Is they did so many endorsement deals, you could be the highest paid guy, but then they didn't do that anymore, right? They're like, oh, okay, let me go somewhere and win, right? So I mean, it's a lot of that has to do with opportunity. If on the field is the only place you're going to get your payday, you're going to go get your payday, right? Like I always look at it as in your rookie time, you try to get that ring. Your pay is already figured out because it's part of wherever you got drafted.
Yep.
Then that first contract you can get paid, go get paid because you're lucky.
You have one chance.
Exactly.
Let's face it, one chance. You might get a second chance, but you really only have one chance to make it.
Especially when you think of how short careers typically are, right? Like most guys don't even get out of their rookie deal. So if you're lucky enough to try and get that payday,
you're going to cash in.
And then if you survive that one,
then you can get another one.
Ring mode. Like you go and people say, oh, you're ring chasing. Well, you're only doing one of the two things. You're either chasing the ring or the money, right? So you chase the ring early, you go get your money, and then you chase the ring to try and finish your career saying you got to the top.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty easy platform.
Like I think Justin Jefferson might fall into that category. Like he was drafted as a Viking, played out his rookie deal, got to the point where he cashed in on his monster deal that they gave him. If Minnesota doesn't win a ring in the next 5 years that he has left on that deal, he will ring chase for that last contract. He'll sign a 3 or 4 year deal with somebody else because he's going to want a shot to get a ring.
Of course. And you should.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't feel bad. Like when Minnesota got rid of Randy Moss to the Raiders, I didn't feel bad about it because it's like he was here his first 8 years. Like he cashed in, he got his deal, didn't get where he wanted to get. He wanted to have a chance to win. I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah. I mean, the only people that survive to 4 contracts typically are cornerbacks. Everybody else are 3 or less.
And by the time they get to that 4th deal, chances are you're holding a clipboard anyways.
Yeah, unless you're Brady or Manning or whatever. But yeah. So I mean, it's
like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's on his 5th or 6th contract this year, but he's just holding a clipboard.
I mean, that's a little different because he's signed to a bunch of 1-year deals. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of not the same thing. But I'm saying like prime contract time, right? Because I mean, if you're going that route, there's a lot of backup quarterbacks that are 15 contracts into their career. So, but yeah, I don't think it's that they don't have the mentality. I think it largely just falls on you don't have all the off the field opportunity.
Mhm.
So you take the on the field opportunity to make money.
And this
Well,
is no,
absolutely.
yeah, and this is no disrespect to the Eagles because the Eagles organization is a great organization. But when
Well,
you
I
look,
didn't mean it as a slight. in
no,
any
but I
way.
was gonna
It's
say is
just-
like when you look at Patrick Mahomes is considered one of the faces, if not the face of the NFL,
Sure.
which is why he has the endorsements he has.
yeah, and that was Brady and a Manning, and I
If
mean
you look
that's
at the Eagles roster, who would you say would be the face of the NFL? Maybe Saquon? Maybe. There's not really one player on the Eagles roster where you can pick out and be like, I want this guy to be the face of the NFL. I want this guy to be the face of the NFL.
well. So the thing is there's 31 other teams that don't have the face of the NFL because there's one. at
No,
any
I'm saying if
given time.
Mahomes wasn't the face of the NFL and like you were looking at like another team to be like, we want this player to be the face of the NFL, we were talking about like the Eagles don't have the same endorsement opportunities that,
Well, and it's going to be a quarterback,
yeah,
right?
Jalen
So, I mean-
Hurts, it would be the one, but like even him, would you take?
I don't know about that because I mean we did it with a center.
Jason
No,
Kelsey, yeah.
So I mean you think
Sort of.
about that like when you ask that question, and I actually put a little bit of thought to it. There's one guy that comes to mind, and I don't know that he's the face of football in America, but he's definitely the face of football in Australia, and that's
Mailata.
You know what I mean? Now the problem is that he's not very super well spoken to the point of he's not a speech guy.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have him like that, but he can sing. You know what I mean? It's a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
But that's you need to be able to have the ability to be a public speaker in a way that a lot of these guys don't have. And that's the difference. You know,
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes can speak well enough. Tom Brady was able to speak well enough. He didn't up until the point that, he divorced Giselle.
True.
Mhm.
But I mean, Manning did, right? Like Manning was that guy.
Yeah.
And if Lamar could, he probably would have been the face of the league.
I think if Mahomes wasn't the face of the league, I think it would be Josh Allen.
No, I agree, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that public speaking is a big
Yeah.
part of it. And
Josh
Lamar
Allen,
doesn't
even
do
Joe
that
Burrow.
very well. But
Because
when
Joe
you look at
Burrow's
the fact
good.
that he's a multiple-time MVP winner,
Yeah.
had he had those abilities,
I don't want to go into
Yes.
the politics of this, but I don't think either one of those two would be it. I think that it would need the reason why Patrick Mahomes is that guy is because he checks a lot of boxes.
He does.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to if you're going to be the face of a multi-billion-dollar program, right? You have to check every box because the fate of the league follows you a little bit.
Like he's a Super Bowl MVP, he's a multiple MVP, he's popular, he stays out of trouble, he does a lot of things that you look for like to be the face of the league. Like there's really not something that people have said I'm sure people have said bad things about Mahomes, but there's really not like that one bad thing that you can be like, this is a bad negative against Mahomes.
Yes,
on
I
that
know.
On that note, that gets us to the top of the hour. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. And since we're not going to see Pags tomorrow, we'll see you on Friday. Take it easy,
Peace.
everybody. For Stat Guy and I, we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.